What happened when I talked about Anora and it was unfavorable to men who were jerking off to Anora because there was a lot of softcore porn in that? They told me to keep my opinion to myself. They told me I wasn't right, I was dumb, I was all these different things outside of a child of God. And they say, no, Anora was good, but Anora didn't really teach you about respecting what women have to say, did it? It did not teach you to have a different point of view when you talk or interact with women, did it? So when we see movies and we view movies, when the movie doesn't really teach you anything, you don't get anything out of it, and then you still try to defend it saying it was a great masterpiece just because you like the fucking director, just because you want to jerk off more to his movies, give me a break.
Hey guys, and welcome back to It Girl in Review with me, your favorite optimist, Jay Gibson. If you haven't heard, Anora won and swept the Oscars, the most awarded movie at the Oscars 2025. Anora versus I'm Still Here, the Russian American Hollywood takeover by force. Now, this is not the first time the Oscars have had a controversial win. It happens every year or every other year. The previous year, it was Angela Bassett versus Jamie Lee Curtis, and Jamie Lee Curtis won. Before that, it was La La Land versus Moonlight. The Oscar has so many upsetting moments in time that we all can recount. Someone who we felt deserved it maybe more than the other, or a movie that was a bit more in tune with the culture than the other. And still the outcome is shocking when the person you believe or the people you believe may win doesn't. It's not the first time, it probably won't be the last. But what makes this moment in Oscar history different is the fact that they have what most did not: Russian influence. Yuri, the actor nominated for Best Actor in a Supporting Role from Anora, is the first Russian to be nominated for an Oscar since the USSR. Now, we know the political climate and we know that art is very political, and art is a vehicle to push out politics, to be honest, and to rebel sometimes, or to make you think a certain type of way, i.e., the people who boldly defend Anora as a masterpiece or as a great work of art because Schomburger does underground independent art and he's worked his butt off and he's crawled his way to the top. I don't want to hear it when you're pushing Russian propaganda. Now, I could just dive right into the reasons of why or why not this is Russian propaganda, Anora, but I definitely want to first talk about Yuri. Yuri Borisov is a Russian actor. He made his acting debut in the crime drama Elena and then won a Golden Eagle Award for his portrayal of Mikhail Kalishnikov in the biopic AK-47. He also starred in the films The Bull, The Silver Skates Compartment Number 6, and Captain Volkanogov Escaped. That's what pops up when you Google who Yuri Borisov is. Now, why doesn't it talk about him being a Russian propagandist actor? Now, if we dive like a little Google search deeper, you'll see a few articles that were posted a few days ago, but they're not making headways for, of course, obvious reasons. One article from Yahoo states, among the cast of Anora is Russian actor Yuri Borisov, who has starred in Russian propaganda films and illegally visited Russian-occupied Crimea. Many have long called for pro-Russian figures to be barred from international events, including the Olympics. So just in case you don't know, Kremlin is used as a euphemism in international politics to refer to the government of the Russian Federation. So to have a Russian propaganda artist be nominated for an Oscar, when a lot of us do watch a lot of movies, especially if you're watching this, you could have named a few other actors that deserve that Best Supporting Actor nomination at the Oscars. But they gave it to a previous Russian propaganda artist. He didn't just do one film, he did multiple films for the Kremlin. That's problematic in itself. Now, you may say, like, hey, Jay, that was the past. What does that have to do with Anora being backed by Russia? Well, we see what happens with the president of Ukraine and the U.S. current president, Agent Orange. We see the disrespect, the offense, the rudeness, the audacity that's thrown at the president of Ukraine, Zelensky. It shocks the world, it shocks international politics. But many articles, many politicians, and many news outlets have said that they believe that Russia had a hand in Agent Orange winning the election for the president of the United States. Russia had a hand in voter booth alterations. Russia had a hand in those extra votes. Russia had a hand in our government and politics with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not an enemy of Russia because he is friends with Putin. When the Oscars premiered, I just knew Anora would win. And guess what? They did. Ha ha ha. Now, some may say Anora does not showcase Russia or Russians in a positive light. Hold your horses. Because Russians were cheering and excited about Anora winning all those awards. Americans in America were not cheering and screaming that Anora won all these Oscars. It was only Russia cheering because they believe that movie put them back on the map. Now, with watching Anora, we have Anya, we have Anya's parents, we have Yuri, we have a few Armenians. We won't talk necessarily about the characters who are supposed to be played by Armenians. We're just going to go off of the people who are Russian. We have Anora, who you may be like, oh no, she's American. We remember, Anora said, oh, she learned Russian from her grandmother. She really can't speak it, but she could understand it because of her grandmother. She may be American, but she has Russian roots, at least by way of her grandmother. So she's Russian light. The only people or country or group of people that was shed a bad light on was the American. He wasn't shed a bad light on because his character was seen as aloof, was seen as not serious, was seen as can't control his own life. His parents were seen as, a little overbearing, but their son just got married randomly in Vegas to a sex worker. You guys berated me for my opinion of Anora. I didn't even do anything crazy or out there or out of the status quo. You guys berated me for that. And then you guys are going to tell me you saw Anya's parents and Anora and said, oh my gosh, they're calling her a sex worker. They're judging her. They're horrible people. They're Russian and horrible. When y'all did that to me just for having an opinion, you guys are going to turn around and flip it and say, no, Anya's parents were horrible people. They were mean. They were judgmental. Y'all be judging women like me every freaking day. So no, if you don't think yourself as a bad person for judging me for having an opinion on Anora, and in turn, you guys can't think that Anya's judgmental parents are bad people for judging Anora for her work and life choices. So Anya's parents are not bad people in the end. They're just maybe overbearing parents who want to control their son and make sure he makes something of himself. But most people who have decent parents get that, been through that, understand that. That's pretty normal for a lot of people who have regular parents, no matter if they're oligarchs, millionaires, or working class. Most parents want to at least have a hold on their kids or young adults' lives so they make something of themselves. That's always the dream. That's why a lot of people do have kids, in the hopes that they become something better than the parents. Then we go to the Bodyguard 2, which is played by Yuri. I called him Bodyguard 2 on my Anora review video, so just go with it for this moment, okay? Bodyguard 2, played by Yuri, is not a bad person either. He's just doing a job, trying to be helpful, trying to care for Anora later on, which still is a bit creepy even to me, but in the end, he's not showcased or thrown into the limelight as a bad character. Similarly to the parents, similarly to Anya, none of the people who are directly Russian and speak Russian are seen as bad people or horrible people. They're just seen as normies, normal people with normal reactions and normal judgments. Annie is the alleged American. Annie, sadly, is the worst person. She's shown in a horrible light. She's shown as a young woman who does not make great decisions, who's a sex worker, which is still illegal. Say what you guys want, but a lot of you guys like to play higher than thou in my comment sections when I have an opinion. You guys want to seem like you're righteous and no, you don't understand underground independent film. Y'all cannot tell me y'all think that people doing illegal activity is okay or right or righteous. You don't. Me, I believe sex workers work. I believe that she's not doing really anything wrong as long as everyone consented, which they did. She didn't do anything wrong, but her character is not showcased as a good person. She's showcased as a young woman who has no control over her life and is trying to top the ranks of society and of classes, which is not possible at all. And through that, we learn that Anora continuously is getting taken advantage of by everyone, aka men. Anya took advantage of the situation with Annie because she was destitute and he had money. Bodyguard 2, Yuri, he took advantage of a destitute and really overwhelmed Annie throughout the film, trying to play the nice guy. And at the end, when she wanted to have sex and he saw she wasn't in the right mind, he should have said, hey, no, that's not okay. But again, he wanted to have sex with Annie, so he wanted to take something from her. The Iranian big boss, I forgot his name, sorry, he wanted Annie to help him find Anya. She didn't have a choice. The parents told Annie, hey, no, you have to get this annulment. There's no other option for you. You have to do what we say. Everyone around Annie is telling her what to do. She has no control over her life. Whether it's at the strip club and she's being told, hey, no, you have to meet this guy because he's Russian, he doesn't speak English, and we know you speak Russian. She has no control really over her body or her life. Every man and every person controls it for her. She is ruled by society's standards of who sex workers are. Whether she's a victim or villain, she is still shown in the worst light. I know people who watch movies, they like to get a deeper meaning out of things, but when it gets a bit too deep, they say, no, 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 confirmation bias. It's just a good movie. It shows this is this. Sean Baker is a great guy because he always does underground and tries to put everyone on. And this is an independent film. It's a low budget film. Finally, a low budget film won. You guys, get our heads out of our butt. Look at the world. Art is political. If Russia can rig elections, which is what's been said they've done, they can definitely, by force, have the Oscars give the movie that their country is rooting for and their country is proud of and their country is partying about awards. Because if it's an American movie, America would have been partying, right? They weren't. Just like I'm Still Here. I'm Still Here. Brazilians were partying. They were having events. Everyone was watching the Oscars. They wanted Fernando Torres and the crew of I'm Still Here to win as many awards as possible. The same thing was going on in Russia because Anora is considered a Russian movie to people in Russia. What are we not getting, guys? What are we not getting? So we have the real characterizations of the characters in Anora that I just put out there for you guys. We have Yuri, the propaganda actor, being nominated and being the first Russian nominated since the USSR. We have really recently Zelensky being shamed by Agent Orange. We have Russian bots helping to rig our election so Agent Orange wins and so Russia can get what they want out of the Ukraine. And lastly, we have an Oscar committee that can be bought. Because this is not the first time the Oscars has been rigged. Harvey Weinstein notoriously bought vacations, sent flights to Paris, to Sundance Festival, to Oscar voters, got them invited to the best parties, got them invited to the best restaurants. This is notoriously a thing that Harvey Weinstein did to solidify votes so his movies would be named as classics, so his movies would be awarded at the most prestigious acting event in the world, the Oscars. This is not a new thing. With all the movies that are trying to get votes and trying to bribe for votes, you think this Anora just won because it was an independent film and it was better than the rest. You really think that. You think that Russia did not have a hand and Anora which shows Russia in a neutral light, but also solidified their first Russian actor to be nominated since USSR. You think that Russia just sat back and said, oh, let's just see if it wins. Has Russia ever sat back and they had a chance at something and just wanted to see if they could win? No. Now some may say like, oh, well, if it was really true, Yuri would have won Best Supporting Actor. Baby, Kieran Culkin was not giving that award up. Kieran Culkin had it in the bag. A Russian propaganda artist, they gave him a seat at the table at the biggest night for actors in 2025. So the people who watch Anora want to see the deeper meaning of things and want to praise Sean Baker, this is not me trying to persuade you out of liking Anora. This is me trying to inform you that this is Russian light. Anora is Russian light, besides, the Armenian leader and stuff like that. But all of the characters are Russian. Anora has Russian background. She understands Russian. This is a serious deal. You can support indie artists, indie directors, guys who really started from the bottom and they made it to the top, like Sean Baker. That is amazing. But at the end of the day, Sean Baker is still a right-winger who follows a lot of right-wing and extremist right-wing accounts. You guys are not above being played. Mark my words, they're going to start out light. Will always be Russian light for the next year. Then they're going to full-blown really start pushing Russians as the good guys in movies with Americans. Starts with Anora, maybe a few other movies you can probably name before Anora. Starts with Anora, Russian light. She's not really Russian because she's American. Her grandmother was Russian. She just understands Russian. She doesn't speak it. Then you go to movies on Apple TV, like The Gorge, where he's American and he's smart and amazing and handsome. And Anya Taylor-Joy, she's not Russian. She's like Latvian or something. But she works for Russia and the Russian government as a contract killer and shooter. So they have to share the west side and the east side of the gorge. And they have a love story, fall in love and run away together and kill the private American company that tried to play them. Or we can go into The Recruit, which really started off for me on Netflix with Noah Cento, whatever the fuck his name is, where you have an American who's naive and dumb, young and dumb, who's a lawyer. And then you have, I think maybe she's from Belarus, but works for the Russian government and is a Russian asset for the Americans. It's a theme, guys. It's a theme. Always Russian light. No one really directly from Russia being the good guy, but they're placing the puzzle pieces and the Legos around so when they actually push a full-blown Russian propaganda actor in a movie and they get nominated for an Oscar, the film bros who love artsy stuff and stick their nose up at women who have an opinion that is different from them, they fight to the tooth to tell that woman to be quiet and keep her opinions to herself while they soak up all of that Russian piss. Their easiest way to make people be traitors is to put it in film, media, movies, music. What happened when I talked about Anora and it was unfavorable to men who were jerking off to Anora because there was a lot of softcore porn in that? They told me to keep my opinion to myself. They told me I wasn't right, I was dumb, I was all these different things outside of a child of God. And they said, no, Anora was good, but Anora didn't really teach you about respecting what women have to say, did it? It did not teach you to have a different point of view when you talk or interact with women, did it? So when we see movies and we view movies, when the movie doesn't really teach you anything, you don't get anything out of it, and then you still try to defend it saying it was a great masterpiece just because you like the fucking director, just because you want to jerk off more to his movies, give me a break. If a movie didn't teach you anything, if a movie doesn't have maybe a higher purpose, if a movie does not have at least the character using euphemisms in a way to teach the audience or at least show the realities of the audience, something so they can go back, contemplate, think about the movie, think about the decisions the character made, and really contemplate how that reflects their own life, you didn't do a good job. So therefore, Anora was a failure. Anora should not have won one Oscar. I don't even think Anora should have been nominated for a freaking Oscar at all. Because at the end of the day, the people who watched Anora got nothing out of it, learned no lessons, didn't learn how to treat women, didn't learn how to listen to women, didn't learn how not to disrespect women. You circle jerk dudes learned nothing from the movie Anora outside of taking Russia propaganda and still disrespecting women. So fuck you. So now that we got through with that, let's go to I'm Still Here and the reasons to why it did not win many Oscars outside of Best International Film, which I did guess right last week. Brazil has a very, very colored past due to the United States' involvement. The pro-America, anti-communist push to Brazil, especially South America, but specifically to Brazil, really was enacted by presenting this theory and converting the military. Brazil would have not had that dictatorship if it wasn't for America and the government. The military coup happened because of America's involvement of pro-America, anti-communist propaganda. If you were blamed and reported as a communist during the Cold War, you would get taken away by the American government in America, especially if you were a person working in any government position in the United States during the Cold War. Same thing happened in Brazil, which is what America wanted. They wanted to weed out the people who America felt were communists, aka were not pro-America, and round them up and do what the military needed to do, aka kill Brazilian people. Brazilian military killing Brazilian people. Insane. America, nasty work. So I have a lot of comments on my video about I'm Still Here with Fernanda Torres, and a lot of Brazilians were so helpful in helping me understand certain perspectives about the movie I'm Still Here. One comment by Ney Bessa: the Brazilian dictatorship has 100% to do with the United States and the Cold War against the Soviet Union. The dictatorship was installed in 1964 by the CIA in an operation called Brother Sam, and an aircraft carrier USS Forrestal was even off the Brazilian coast when it was launched. The United States feared that the same thing that happened in Cuba would happen here, but Brazil, far from that, had a democratic government and legitimately elected Congress. A somewhat crazy president named Jânio Quadros resigned, and his successor, João Goulart, focused more on social causes, and this upset the conservative sectors of Brazilian society. Thus, the stage was set for a military coup, which was supposed to last 1 or 2 years, but lasted 21 years. The military became addicted to power and increased the level of repression in 1968 with the Institutional Law No. 5. So what would you think would happen if I'm Still Here won major categories at the Oscars in America, the biggest acting and film event in the world? What do you think would happen if I'm Still Here won major categories outside of Best International Film? Not just blogs, the media, articles, interviews, the news. We'll be taking a deeper look into I'm Still Here and how the dictatorship even happened. And then comes the videos, and then comes the blame to the US government, and then comes the side eye to the Soviet Union, because it was a fight between the Soviet Union and the American government at that time during the Cold War. So them winning Best International Film, great, but the main categories, which is Best Actress, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actress, Best Supporting Actor, Best Picture, those are the main categories. So with I'm Still Here not winning any of the main categories, no one talks about the deeper meaning of I'm Still Here and what the American government actually did, and Brazil getting that apology from not just the American government, but the Soviet Union. You could say that, oh no, it wasn't really the Soviet Union, it was just America that I'm Still Here really gets involved with. No, it's the anti-communist rhetoric that the American government was pushing on Brazil. When you say, oh, anti-communism, you cannot look at it and say like, oh, then that makes Soviet Union look a bit more innocent and look a bit more nicer and look a bit more kind. It doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't, because we all know communism is wrong, dictatorships is wrong. What's going on in Russia right now? Communism and what? Okay. So I'm Still Here is literally a memoir of the atrocities that happen when the US and Russia are paranoid. I think someone in my comments pronounced her name Fernanda Torres. Am I saying that right, guys? Fernanda Torres did not stand a chance at the Oscars because she helped tell a story about bad America and obviously bad Soviet Union, aka Russia. With an American award show and Russian involvement, I'm Still Here didn't stand a chance. Especially seeing that Anora swept and everything I just said about Anora, we understand that yes, I'm Still Here should have swept the Oscars because it was by far one of the better films nominated. But sadly, that's not the reality. The reality is Russia won. I'm not here to dissuade people from liking Anora. If you like it, you like it. I'm not here to shame you and tell you, oh, if you like Anora, you believe in Russian propaganda. I'm not here to do that to anyone. I'm just here to tell you to think deeper. You can like Sean Baker all you want and his fetishization of women in his movies to get his leg up in the world. You can like Sean Baker all you want. You can like his movies all you want. I may like his movies in the future, but it does not hide the fact that I'm Still Here was objectively a better film. Better made, better story, better casted, better acting. The film was objectively better. But at the end of the day, Anora swept the Oscars, and we just will have to get over that. It happens every other year, like I've said prior. When you think something's going to win and it doesn't, it's shocking. Anora was the underdog, and they won. Congrats to them. That doesn't stop my belief and my understanding that, yes, Russia did have a foot in Anora winning. They are a major country with a major influence in America. And they're pushing to have major influence in Hollywood. Mark my words, there will be a lot more American-Russian alliances in Hollywood films. Anyways, shout out to Brazil, Fernanda Torres. Shout out to you, girl. You're still my Oscar winner. You ate that roll up. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of It Girl in Review. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, follow me on Spotify so you can just listen along. And if you don't want to watch along, just turn it on and listen while you're doing laundry, while you're sleeping. I don't care. Y'all need to watch my full videos and stop playing around. Next week will be a lighter note. No more Oscar talk for a little while, all right? Russian propaganda is not okay. American propaganda is not okay.